Stalin Cheesecake, also pretty good. You should try that.
There it is.
I think it's pretty clear that the Zambian president one time got drunk in public on a horse and then sent a dick pic.
Commonwealth, Commonwealth, the former empire, now Commonwealth. Is it relevant? Probably not. But why not give this part a shot? Stay tuned. Here comes Uncommonwealth, the podcast.
And we're live. We're live from some undisclosed location. And it's the Uncommonwealth podcast. Welcome back, guys.
Hey.
Woo.
The podcast.
All right, let's just get right into it. First segment is called "Things You Should Never Do in Zambia."
Oh,
Brilliant.
God.
Brilliant.
All right,
It's a long list. It's a very long list. I know that.
It's a very long. We won't cover them all, just so you know. A few facts about Zambia, just up top. It's about 17 million people live in Zambia. Joined the Commonwealth in 1964 when Nixon was president, and it's a landlocked, fertile, and mineral-rich country in southern Africa. All right, so things you should never do in Zambia. Number one, never defame the president.
Uh-oh.
Wait, the Zambian president or the American president?
The Zambian president. I think if you're in Zambia, you can say whatever you want about the American president.
I think if you're in America, you can say whatever you want about the American president.
Yeah, but don't say anything bad about the Zambian president, even if you're in America.
You did put good point.
Yeah, but imagine, like, you in Zambia, if you say anything that's considered defamation of the president, under the defamation of the president law, they can put you in jail for 3 years.
What?
Wow.
I feel like that. Can you imagine that law here?
Thank God Trump hasn't heard of Zambia.
That's a good point. Okay, the second thing you should never do in Zambia, never send nudes.
Wait, why? Is it illegal or just is there something about the...
What about nudes of the president?
Well, if you're complimentary, you'd only be breaking one of the rules, I think.
But if it's an unflattering photo, that's also defamation.
If it was an unflattering photo, then you probably get in big trouble. Okay, so sending a nude like a sext or a dick pic is considered pornography, which is illegal in Zambia.
Oh,
I think that should just be a law in every country.
You think there should be no pornography? No dick pics. Okay. I can get on board with that, but
lots of porn.
Oh,
They just made it illegal in Texas to send unsolicited nudes.
Really? So
yeah.
wait, Texas is as progressive as Zambia?
As far
If you break the section 102 of the Electronic Communications and Transactions Act, which would be one of the areas where pornography is prohibited in Zambia, you can be fined 36 million Zambian whatever it is, which is $3 million. $3 million for a dick pic.
wow.
And you can be sent to jail for 10 years.
Oh my God.
I think that's a great law, though. We should bring it in.
Yeah. Do they have like firewalls and stuff up that you have to sort of get around if you're desperate for porn, or what's the deal?
Oh, like if you want to get porn.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. It's a good question. I'm sure there's a black.
Piers has got a trip planned to Zambia and it's clearly need to.
He's got his finger on his temple, so he's deep in thought.
It's a business idea.
I need to change my itinerary.
Yeah, here's one that would be particularly difficult for Australians in Zambia. Never get publicly intoxicated.
Oh, that's impossible.
Yeah.
Is it deeply religious, Zambia? It sounds.
Well, it's clearly got a very conservative
Yeah.
government.
Oh, sure. You can be arrested if you're for public drunkenness. It's funny how. Okay, so Chapter 180 of the Zambian Penal Code. I'm just going to read it to you because the wording is very fun.
Penal code, nice.
Penal code. Any person who is found drunk in public and acting in a disorderly way, or who is drunk while in charge on any highway or railway or other public place of any horse, cattle, steam engine, locomotive, wagon, van, carriage, or other vehicle other than a motor vehicle, or who is drunk when in possession of any loaded firearm, may be arrested without warrant and is liable to a penalty not exceeding 750 penalty units.
Penalty units?
Or imprisonment with or without hard labor for a period not exceeding 3 months.
I think we need penalty units here.
I think
I
we
like
do
the
have
sound of
we
penalty
probably-
units.
We probably do have them here. I think that's a pretty standard thing in the drafting of criminal legislation.
I like
it-
how Adam ignored the follow-up questions about Zambia. What is Zambia? What's the deal with Zambia? Why is it so crazy strict about these things?
It's in Africa. There's 17 million people. We went through this at the beginning.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Did you notice
Adam-
when I read that they said you can't be drunk on a horse?
Yes.
Oh, it's clearly they heard about that lady in
or
Australia that
or
went
a
through the
railway
drive-through.
or a passage. Yeah. Adam,
Yeah.
that was impressive reading. Can I just?
Thank you.
I know it's off topic, but that was very impressive reading out loud.
No one reads as well out loud as I do, but thank you.
Did Catherine just say thank you for a compliment that was directed to someone else?
I think it's
so.
pretty clear that the Zambian president one time got drunk in public on a horse and then sent a dick pic, and that controversy has fueled a lot of
And it got a
legislative
terrible review.
reforms. Yeah.
Sent a dick pic to himself that was derogatory.
Yeah.
Right. So as I said at the beginning, there's more things that you should never do in Zambia, but we'll cover those at a different day.
Uncommon wealth.
So as some of you may or may not know, last weekend, so this is as of the time of recording, last weekend was the Summer Solstice in the Northern Hemisphere.
Oh.
The Summer Solstice, of course, being the longest day of the year. There's 2 in each year, 1 per hemisphere. And the solstice is it's a significant date in a lot of religions and cultures, particularly in the pagan religion and culture. The ancient Celtic pagans, there's a lot of traditions. So you might have heard it called Midsummer. That's a common term here. But anyway, so the Stonehenge in England, a famous cultural site, and it's a big part of the solstice rituals in a lot of these cultures, particularly in the pagan culture. So turns out that last weekend, because of COVID, usually about 10,000 people will go to Stonehenge to watch the sunrise on the summer solstice. But because of COVID, Stonehenge is closed at the moment, and that's upset a lot of people, particularly some Druids in England. So I've read an article, and there's
Those
a quote.
Druids.
Those Druids.
I mean,
there's a quote.
hang on, it's not closed. I mean, like the stones are still there.
The stones are there, yes.
They packed them up.
They're actually, they're honestly about 200 feet off a major highway.
Yeah.
Off Britain's sort of largest motor speedway. It's a
Really?
ridiculous site. Yeah.
I didn't realize they were that close.
Oh,
Huh.
you can, I mean, yeah, you can see everything you need to see doing 80 miles an hour. It's down
Wow.
the M5 or whatever it is.
Okay, so I also didn't realize this. I've not been to Stonehenge, but you actually have to pay to go and visit this site. There's obviously like an entry fee. It's not much. I think it's like 10 or 15 pounds. But so it on the day, people weren't allowed to go, but there were a lot of people upset, these Druids, and they sort of went and waited by the fence. One of whom, and this is a quote from the article I read, it said, "You can't cancel the sunrise," Druid Arthur Pendragon told the BBC.
Arthur Pendragon.
Now, for those who are familiar with English folklore or Celtic folklore,
Chaucer was
Arthur Pendragon is the name of King Arthur from, Knights of the
Oh
Round
my
Table.
God. Yeah.
His
Merlin's
last name is Pendragon?
His last name is Pendragon, which
Wow.
this is what set me off. Like, if you are quoting a druid called Arthur Pendragon in your article, like, I'm spending the afternoon researching this. So this fellow, he's 66 years old. He was born, his birth name was John Rothwell. He's an English man. So he's a druid. And in fact, he was the battle chieftain of the Council of British Druid Orders for a while. Now,
Whoa.
to top it off, the reason this guy's called King Arthur, he is the self-declared reincarnation of King Arthur.
You've got to self-declare.
You can do
I'm
it.
the self-declared reincarnation of Marie Antoinette.
There you go.
Well,
Doesn't that make sense?
it is
You
so.
should wear some kind of neck protection in that case, Catherine. But this fellow, so he, in his early days, he was a biker. He formed a biker gang called the Grave Diggers. He was, he got into a bit of trouble. But anyway, he, at one point in his earlier days, he read a book about King Arthur and became convinced that he shared a lot of similarities with this guy and became convinced that he was the reincarnation of King Arthur. And he went and legally changed his name.
Oh, so his legal name is Arthur Pendragon.
His legal name now is Arthur Pendragon. In fact, I believe it's Arthur Uther Pendragon after
What does one do to achieve druid status?
How do you become a druid?
Is there
You
a
have-
test?
I don't know if there's speaking of tests, this is a fun little fact. He passed the test that allows him to join Mensa, which is that like high IQ club.
What?
So this guy's actually like super
He's
smart.
no dummy.
He's no dummy. I don't know specifically what you need to do to be classified as a druid. There are memberships, and he actually when he
You just got to pay the fee. Okay. All right.
No,
I'm
fun
joined.
fact, Piers, is that when he first joined the Council of British Druid Orders, the fee to be a druid was voluntary, and he campaigned and made it a mandatory fee. So if you want to be a druid, you got to fess up your pennies.
You got to pay up because of
Yeah.
author.
As soon as we get off this podcast, I'm changing my name to Merlin.
You'd have to go hang out with him. But this guy, like, he's full into it. So he went and bought the famous movie Excalibur.
Oh,
I think
good
it's
movie.
like a 1980s movie. Yeah. He bought the sword that allegedly is the prop sword from that movie.
Wow.
Does he think it's the real one?
I don't know. He
That would be a little delusional.
Well, it gets more delusional. He designed and has had made like a full ceremonial druid robe. So it's like white with the red dragon. So he spent a few years daily picketing and protesting at Stonehenge to try and remove the entry fee.
Oh, interesting.
Oh my God, I love
Just
it.
for the record, I
With
think
his
the sword
sword?
is. I'm fine with the sword. As someone that had a Raiders of the Lost Ark jacket made for him, I'm fine with his sword.
But do you think you're a history professor?
Archaeologist.
I feel embarrassed now.
Yeah, you should.
I know. But so this guy was protesting every day, and so he sort of became his own little mini attraction because he's there dressed in a druid's robe, and he also started living in like the woodland area around Stonehenge, and he would survive off the food that people just donated to this like crazy fellow claiming to be King Arthur.
I feel like this is how you become the Unabomber.
Possibly.
Does Arthur not have a job?
His job was being King Arthur. What more job
full-time.
is there? Yeah.
King's a big job.
Yeah, he did. I think he did some roofing work as well, but
Fucking
mainly,
Wait a
His
second.
moving.
yeah,
His side
So-
gig was a roofer, but his main thing was King Arthur.
his main thing was King Arthur.
The podcast.
Oh, here we go, guys. All right, settle in, buckle up, and put the kettle on, because there is an ice cream in India that sold out a few years ago that is called Hitler ice cream. They sell ice cream cones with the image of and likeness of Adolf Hitler on them, and they were a huge smash hit until the internet found out about them and had a few choice words.
What country did you say? India?
This is in the Uttar Pradesh province of India, which is in the north near Nepal. And it's actually quite a fascinating, just, sociological whatever story, because basically the guy said, one of my uncles is a short-tempered and strict man, so we nicknamed him Hitler. And while naming this particular batch of ice cream cones, I thought, why can't we have a little fun at the expense of my uncle and name the cones after him? That was how the name originated. Because it turns out that in India, you can be a Hitler, but they don't harbor genocidal views or maniacal aspirations to world power. It's just someone that has a bad temper. It's become this sort of way of referring to
that's
someone.
Interesting.
That's a common nickname for people who are cranky. They
A
get called
common
Hitler.
nickname for people. It is. I mean, we kind of
No
do
way.
it. He was the guys like we really don't have any sort of deep knowledge about the Holocaust and what happened. And I'm sorry. I've looked into it and I feel bad about it. It's just this commonplace thing to refer to. And they even have like cafes named the Hitler Cafe, pool holes named the Hitler Pool Hole. There was a collection of swastika bed linens called the Nazi collection that was sold.
I mean, the swastika thing makes a little sense in that, like, it was originally an Asian symbol that was like
Hitler stole
positive.
it from India.
Yeah.
Hitler stole it from India. Yeah, which is very,
So if they had swastika bed linen, it wouldn't bother me if it wasn't called the Hitler collection or whatever.
the Nazi collection.
Nazi
yeah.
collection.
Right.
That's a little
Marc
much.
Jacobs' collection's not doing as well now that Hitler collection's come on the scene to steal that market share.
So could you
But
buy
yeah.
that stuff in India, bring it to the U.S., and sell it to neo-Nazis as like original Nazi propaganda?
But exotic.
Or paraphernalia and make a fortune?
Indian linens,
How many what's the thread count on the Nazi collection, you think?
100,000 Egyptian cotton. That's insane, Piers. I can't believe it. And I love that he's just like, oh, we didn't realize he was a bad dude. We just thought he was a short-tempered fellow.
My uncle's just a bit of a grump.
How could they not know about the genocide?
Mein Kampf is also a big bestseller still in India. They print it annually, and it sells very well. I don't know. They have a very...
There's no overlooking that.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
this is getting to a point where
That's a problem. You
It's not
can't
a
not
mistake.
read. If you read the book, you know.
Well, it turns out that
Translation.
Gandhi and Hitler actually corresponded quite a bit, and as well as one of India's most famous freedom fighters wrote to Hitler getting advice to get rid of the Brits, to get rid of my kind. So there is this sort of connection between their independence and Hitler being a cranky. I don't know how to get out of it, but
Wow.
it's just very deep and interesting.
I'm
And
surprised
they-
this isn't more like. I'm
Yeah.
surprised this isn't talked about more.
They really claim to have no deep knowledge about the Holocaust.
I'm also really glad, Piers, that
Also-
you told me, because imagine if you went to India and went to the Hitler Cafe without and the Hitler, you'd be looking around saying, all right, where are the cameras? I'm going to
Amazing
behave very
espresso.
well.
Amazing, best one I had in all of the Uttar Pradesh. There's actually no mention of what the flavor of the ice cream is anywhere. That's what I really searched for. But
I was picturing something like Rocky Road. I don't know why. I feel like
We're thinking
Reiki
vanilla,
Road.
just the most vanilla, the whitest ice cream you've ever seen.
Yeah.
The purest, whitest ice
extra
cream.
vanilla. Yeah.
It's allowed.
Hitler ice cream is clearly the title of this episode.
Stalin cheesecake, also pretty good. You should try that.
There it is. There it is. That's boom.
Uncommon wealth.
It's time for another shit.
You need the bathroom already?
It's time. It's time for another round of dumb questions. This time, I wanted to know, where does the British spelling come from, and why is it different than the American spelling? Because we, in Canada and Australia, and all of us, we all spell color with U. We use our REs instead of our ERs, and I was like, how did this evolve?
Favorite.
Wow.
Apparently, in the early 18th century, English spelling was just inconsistent. There were some dictionaries, but they all put forth different versions and different spellings. If you look actually in a lot of Shakespeare's writing, which like some of the older writing, a lot of the spelling is American, like it's like how we now spell American words. So anyway, there was no consistency. So eventually, like a bunch of academics got together and were like, this has to stop. We need a consistent way to spell. And so they hired this guy to write a dictionary that we could all, like, everyone could subscribe to in 1755. It took him 7 years, and he did it alone. And he published, and he was an advocate of you random things. Like he seriously just chose, like, he was an academic, and he chose the spellings that have now become popular in Britain.
Wow.
And then the same
That's
thing
cool.
happened in the US, but with Noah Webster, really popular dictionary that gained popularity. So the British dictionary was written by a guy named Samuel Johnson, and then Noah Webster is the originator of the American English. And those two dictionaries ended up shaping the way that we spell almost all of the different words.
What is the process of even writing a dictionary? Do they just sit down? Are they like apple? And they just go.
You'd start with aardvark. first of all.
Aardvark.
Aardvark.
Good point. Aardvark, Aaron, Arancini. I don't know, but do they?
I don't think there's proper names in
These
the
guys
dictionary.
contracted Johnson to write the dictionary, and they were like, here's 1,500 guineas. Is that a term for pound? It says
It's a racial slur, I think.
It's a racial slur for Italian people.
No, but it's also a currency thing, isn't it?
No,
is it?
It was. It definitely was. It was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
wait,
Well,
that's
just
the
to be clear, we're not talking about like human trafficking. It's a
like, guys, this
15,000 Italian pizza makers.
Oh, the pizza sucks.
2 listeners.
So they paid him about the equivalent to £250,000 now in 2020,
Wow.
which isn't that much to
For an
write.
academic,
Wow.
that'll buy you a lot of poems.
And then he said, I'll do it in 3 years. And he was doing it alone. And it took him 7.
wow.
And he had one clerical assistant. And he produced several editions during his life. And
Okay,
then
so wait.
yes.
He was doing it alone with one clerical assistant.
Hey,
That doesn't track.
Unpaid
He wasn't-
intern.
He was single. That's what she meant. He just wasn't. He was unmarried.
Oh, he was a single guy with an assistant. I got
He
it.
was an unmarried man with a staff of 50 people.
guys, this was like he was doing it all by hand. Like it wasn't like he had a computer to help him. The clerical assistant was copying illustrative quotations that he had marked in the books. That's what his job was. I'm sure it wasn't a sheet.
I feel like as a go ahead, Piers.
No, it's you. Go.
It must suck so much as an English second language learning person. All these like ambiguities across a like. English is such an inconsistent language to begin with. Like so many all the exceptions to all the rules and everything. I would hate to have to learn English as a second language. It makes no sense.
Oh, it'd be so hard.
It's confusing. And then I looked into a few of our favorites, like aluminium and aluminum.
I was really hoping that would be the one you'd focus on.
The spelling of aluminium is apparently the international standard over aluminum, but apparently Elements discoverer, like the guy who found it, proposed the name, neither one of those names, aluminium. And then later aluminum. And they just decided that they wanted to conform to the other metallic elements, so they went with aluminium. And then somehow it all just got changed in America because we changed things. But there was no, like, back in the day, now how we're like, this is how you spell words. People weren't like that. It was like you spelled your words how you wanted to spell your words. There was no standard. Anyway, I've gone on and on too much.
The podcast. Like the Empire, we're almost done. We hope that you've had lots of fun. Was it relevant? Probably not. But thanks for giving this part a shot. Stay tuned for the end of Uncommon Wealth. The podcast. Stay tuned for Uncommon Takes.
Are you allowed to be a druid if you can't grow a decent beard?
Oh, that's a good point.
I think they wouldn't let me in.
You're not druidly enough.
Not with a moustache.
Uncommon Takes.
Okay, no, I didn't. So Piers, I didn't realize.
Can women be druids?
Good question. I don't know if I've.
Is there a different word for it? A druidess?
Uncommon Takes.
I love it. I love it when Catherine said.
Keep this going.
Catherine said wrap it up. Catherine said wrap it up earlier. It was Piers up next. We all went silent, and then Piers was like, "Those druids are pretty weird." Like,
Uncommon Wealth. The podcast.